All right, so we are in Second Corinthians, chapter 2, and or sorry, chapter 1. Chapter 1. We didn't finish chapter 1. We got up to we got through verse 7. I think is, yeah, that's as far as we got.
Maybe we're just gonna and then keep the two.
No, I don't want to skip anything.
It's not good.
Well, there's so much, we don't want to miss anything. Well, we'll have to skim in Exodus, unfortunately, but you will read it all on your own time, for sure. We'll definitely be talking about all of it.
You take this during the week. I don't know how you remember.
Or don't you work?
Yeah, but I study this after work. All right. Verse 8. For we do not want you to be ignorant, brethren, of our trouble which came to us in Asia, that we were burdened beyond measure, above strength, so that we despaired even of life. Now, usually when Paul said we don't want you to be ignorant, that meant they didn't know about that situation. So he wanted to make sure that they did understand not just what they went through, but why, God's purpose in that. He doesn't just say, those terrible things happened to us. It's not complaining. Sometimes we we'll do that. We'll just complain and go, oh boy, the woes I've been through.
Oh, did they find out it was in Asia? Just all word of mouth?
No,
chain reaction.
He was there and he's telling them. I mean, he wasn't in like China, it was like Asia Minor. You got to remember there's a lot of country that's considered Asia. So and he was, there was one point where he wanted to go Far East. He was forbidden. But when he went to this section of Asia, and I don't know what part, but it was him and those that were ministering with him were despairing even of their lives, it says. And, that kind of trouble will, I tell you what, they call it, some call it foxhole faith, but he had already put his faith in Christ, but it tested him to this point that, and I'm going to continue on because I want you to understand just how bad it was. Verse 9, yes, we had the sentence of death in ourselves, that we should not trust in ourselves, but in God who raises the dead, who delivered us from so great a death and does deliver us, in whom we trust that he will still deliver us, you also helping together in prayer for us, that thanks may be given by many persons on our behalf for the gift granted us through many. So when he went through this suffering, I want you to notice how, the purpose of God in all of that. Now you say, well, what's God doing when I'm suffering? Now, some people, they'll go through some suffering and they'll blame God for it. But I don't know that that's rightly put, unless it's actually judgment. But not all suffering is evil. Sometimes suffering is evil. Sometimes it's judgment. Sometimes it's the natural flow of the fall of man, right? We live in a fallen world, and sometimes it's from our own choices. Now, it seems from what Paul is telling us, some think, well, this was sickness, but this was everybody there. And it was burden, and it was despair, and it was a sentence of death for all of them. And so they were in dire straits. Let's just put it that way. So what is God doing in all of that? Paul doesn't blame God for that. Do you see him blaming God in any of this? No, not at all. I don't see that in this text one bit. Now, I do see God working in it though. And I want you to ask that kind of question. Where is God working when I'm suffering? Where is God working when times are good? Whatever your circumstance, you have to look to see, okay, Lord, where are you working in this circumstance? God is working always. The question you need to ask is where? Where is he working? How is he working? What is he trying to accomplish in me? What is he trying to accomplish through me? And what is he trying to accomplish in others? And I think when we start asking those kind of questions, it helps us to get to the right place spiritually through that suffering or through that circumstance. You see, Paul in 2 Corinthians 1, 8 through 11 is explaining that there is real deliverance. Real deliverance. I'm keeping that real. I'm keeping it real here. Remember last week we used that real deliverance, and then verses 12 through 24 is real Christian conduct. But real deliverance has to do with our understanding how God is working through your circumstance. What is God up to? And you know, some people think, oh, I don't know, he's so far away, I can't see him, I don't know what he's doing. Well, he is working. The question you need to ask is how. And in this case, what was he doing? Well, for himself, we learned not to trust in ourselves at all, but in God, who raises the dead. Even if we die in this situation, God is our hope. God is the one who we can trust. Now, do you know that? Do you know how God can deliver you even from death? That's hope.